Hello everyone, this is Taylor from Culture of Gaming. Today's video is something a little bit different than what you've seen on the channel before. Today is what I would call a thoughts video, and what this is just my unfiltered thoughts and opinions on an issue picked for today. So the issue that I've picked for today is the EA-Visceral Games debacle. Let's get right into it. Over the past week, EA has decided to shut down Visceral Games and move the game that they were developing, which was a single-player Star Wars title, to EA's international development offices, most notably being EA Vancouver. This is boding fairly awfully for people's hopes for the Star Wars games, and there are a few reasons why. The first of which being, EA is known for its pretty bad business practices for a multitude of reasons. They've had very what could be deemed anti-consumer business practices in the gaming industry, which people don't like, so there's going to be a lot of backlash against EA. And they've had some games utterly fail, but eventually pick themselves back up, and they've also had some games just completely fail and never really get back into the swing of things, most recently of which being Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, EA has actually, I'd say, improved itself a lot in the past years. They were very fair with Battlefield 1, they were very fair with Titanfall 2, except for the release date. I have no idea what happened with the release date of Titanfall 2, why they would choose to release it in between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which we all know which three of those is probably the best FPS out there. I'd say Titanfall 2 definitely is, but that's just my opinion. I definitely think Titanfall 2 would have done better if it released in a different window. This past week, EA shut down Visceral Studios. Visceral Studios were the makers of the Dead Space series, most notably. They had been working on a single-player Star Wars experience for the past few years until EA, in what seemed like a very unexpected move to a lot of people involved, EA shut down Visceral Studios and moved development of the Star Wars game to their international development studios, all done in-house of EA. Not BioWare, which is under EA, not Visceral, which used to be under EA. No, this is legitimately EA developing this game. So not only are they the publisher in this case, they will also be the developer for the Star Wars game if it ever even ends up seeing the light of day. In EA's formal statement, they mentioned that, we're pivoting the development of it, we're not completely scrapping it. And yet today you have one of the developers saying that the game was, for all intents and purposes, scrapped and canceled. So we'll really see how the game releases, how similar it could be to what Visceral was working on. It would require those guys weighing in a few years down the road when all this dust settles and everything. And so what the rumors going around are, and what most people's opinion on this are, which I actually have to disagree with, is that EA is trying to restructure this Star Wars game as a games as a service type model. If you don't know what a games as a service type model is, it's basically an MMO type model, in the sense of, you pay a subscription, usually $15 a month for an MMO, and then you're periodically given content updates, and then every few years you buy a huge content update known as an expansion for $40 to $60. The most notable recent game that has tried that before, and I don't want to say flopped, but didn't do as well as hoped, was Destiny. Destiny 2 recently released, and it looks like it's going to be trying the same thing as a game as a service. And people are saying that's what EA is trying to do with Star Wars, with the Star Wars game, because a lot of things point to it going that direction in EA's wording and everything. They're pivoting how the experience is given to players and everything, so people do have their concerns about what it means for the future of the Star Wars game. One reason that I don't believe that it might be going the route of a game as a service is because EA also has Anthem under their belt in development, and I'm pretty sure we can expect that by late 2018. That's where I honestly think we'll see Anthem. From what we got to see at Anthem at E3 2017 is that it was definitely EA's answer to Destiny, is what it seemed like. That's very much what it felt like, the vibe it gave off and everything, and that's what I'd imagine they're going to structure it around, is being EA's competitor to Destiny. I don't see EA making a Star Wars title also a competitor to Destiny, because then you have 3 games in the market, all competing with each other, all are sci-fi, 2 of the 3 are under the same publisher's banner, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it. You know, it can kind of make sense from a business perspective. You know, if you get people only wanting to play 2/3 of this game, only wanting to pay for 2/3 of this game, there's a chance that 2/3 of it could be going all into EA's pockets between Star Wars and Anthem. So, I mean, that is definitely a possibility. So there is kind of a business perspective that makes sense from it, but from other perspectives, I just don't see EA wanting to compete with each other. You know, you could argue that, oh, Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 compete with each other. I mean, kind of. Battlefield 1 is so much more of a combined arms, heavily realistic gameplay-oriented game, which with a different setting, a completely different setting than what Titanfall 2 is. Titanfall 2 is more of your arcadey shooter, and it's a little bit less combined arms. I know there are Titans and everything in Titanfall 2, obviously, and so there is kind of a combined arms element there, but I don't think the combined arms element is as heavy of element as the combined arms element is in Battlefield 1. And it's completely different settings. I mean, Battlefield 1 takes place a century in the past, while Titanfall 2 takes place a couple centuries in the future. And if EA really does go the route of Star Wars, Anthem, and just Star Wars and Anthem under their same banner as games of service, you know, they have two sci-fi games competing with each other. Both games are heavily rooted in sci-fi elements. You know, it's what we've seen from the Anthem gameplay and trailer. It's what we've seen from, I mean, it's really hard to judge Star Wars as anything being but sci-fi. It's not like we're gonna get a medieval Star Wars game or anything. So Star Wars is sci-fi. And I mean, Destiny 2 is also sci-fi. So you have three competing sci-fi games as a service games in a market, and two of which fall under EA. I'm really not sure that's the angle they're going at for. What I really think happened is EA had some internal conflicts with Visceral, which we'll probably never know about due to various agreements and everything, and decided to shut them down. And this Star Wars game was the collateral. This was the collateral damage of EA shutting down Visceral Studios for possibly a completely unrelated reason. Now, it's up to the EA development studios to pick up the pieces of it and keep working on it. One last thing, it's very hard to mention this whole thing, you know, regarding a in limbo development, because, you know, we really don't know if the status of the Star Wars game is positive or negative or in limbo. So for all intents and purposes, I think it's in limbo right now. EA developers allegedly picked it up, but we don't know if they're going to sit on it for a couple of years and then release it after Anthem has run its course or what. It's really hard to not mention in this whole thing the whole Star Wars 1313. A number of years ago, there was this incredible looking story-driven Star Wars game called Star Wars 1313, which I encourage you to go look up some other clips of it on YouTube and whatnot, because this game looked incredible. I was super excited for it when I saw it and everything, and I believe it was actually pretty close to being done in development when Disney bought LucasArts, or Lucasfilms rather, and I believe they scrapped 1313 because they didn't like how gritty it was. Yeah, they scrapped it, or they just stopped development on it, and its files are still on a computer and at a Skywalker Ranch somewhere. This entire thing rates of another Star Wars 1313 debacle. Only thing is, we're hearing about it now. Star Wars 1313 was largely kept under wraps as being canceled for a while, but now I think we're hearing a lot more about this Star Wars game because it was the big ticket item that Visceral was working on at the time of their shutdown, and I believe it was public info that Visceral was working on a Star Wars title that was going to be single player driven and experienced and everything until EA shut them down. We have that to contend with, and it definitely rates of another Star Wars 1313 debacle. So probably the most likely course of action will be, from what I see it as, is that Anthem is going to release in 2018, be the primary competitor to Destiny 2 and everything, and then we'll see how Anthem does as a competitor to Destiny 2. I'd say if Anthem does in fact compete well with Destiny 2, then for argument's sake here, I'm naming games that haven't even been announced or maybe even thought of yet. Anyway, we'll see if, you know, if Anthem really is a viable competitor to Destiny 2, then we'll probably say Anthem 2 compete with Destiny 3, and that Star Wars game might not even launch as a games as a service by that point, or it might not even launch at all by that point. Or if Anthem doesn't sell too well against Destiny 2, then there is a chance that we'll see that Star Wars game brought back to life as a game as a service, and will be a competitor to Destiny 3 by the time. But just saying how the timing for these life cycles and everything will probably work out. Anyway, so these are my thoughts on the subject, kind of brief. I appreciate you guys watching this. Again, this is a very unscripted, very unedited video. Very light editing has been done to it, and there was absolutely no script. This was absolutely just a stream of consciousness and thought. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment below about the whole EA-Visceral debacle. I'll see you guys next week.